So we are going to talk about Alzheimer's, which you have, which, did you know that? It's a disease that affects your brain and it limits your ability to remember things from the past or even maybe what you did at lunch.
I don't know, what is it?
Just when you can't remember things.
Well, I'm pretty good about remembering most everything I need to. Yeah.
Unfortunately, Alzheimer's disease is a condition that impacts every capacity of someone's life, their personality, their behavior, of course, their memory. Alzheimer's doesn't impact just one person. It touches, everyone in their life, their caregivers, their loved ones. It's all encompassing.
The person who you've looked to for care and for wisdom and for guidance. Dads are all the little girls' heroes. He's still my hero, but just the man that he was, he's already gone.
I work at Miller's L, a company that's almost 60 years old. It was founded by my dad, Sandy Miller. He was the definition of an entrepreneur. To see someone and to go through the life and the emotions of somebody that's losing the ability to be who they are, it was very difficult to be a part of. And the scary thing is that it keeps getting worse. It doesn't get any better. But the quality of that photograph for me is really telling. I mean, the fact that he looked right into it, the fact that he posed, just brings back memories.
I don't want anybody else to have to go through this. It's horrible. It's sad. It is terrible to see someone who was so successful, so wise, and to have that stripped. And I would not wish that on anyone.
What I've learned is that it is individual for every person. It's a very long journey for the person affected with the disease, but also their entire family. It affects their dynamics in their families. It affects every part of their daily lives.
And I have, so sadly, a dear friend who was diagnosed in her mid-50s with early onset, and just recently another friend whose husband in his 50s was diagnosed. And it is a cruel and painful disease in your 70s or 80s. But in your 50s, it just feels so unfair.
People think that Alzheimer's only affects people in their 70s and 80s, but there are over 250,000 Americans that are younger, and it impacts people in their 30s.
My mother was a nursing assistant. She worked in the hospital and cared for premature babies for 30 years of her life, and she has cared for her mother, her sisters, and everybody, and so she never forgets things, but now she forgets things.
And I think for John, the hardest thing has been, first of all, he retired so that he could come home and take care of his mother. And I remember the first time that he had to help her take a bath. It was the most difficult thing for him.
It's challenging, but it is an absolute privilege to be able to care for my mother.
Someone with dementia and Alzheimer's, they're still that person, even though they may be slipping away or changing. Deep down, they still have their pride and their right to be treated with as much respect and dignity as they can be for the rest of their lives. Everyone does.
And so if we could get to a point where we're living a normal life without having to have the fear and the worry and the expense, it's just the saddest disease. And so, all healthcare research matters, but I think Alzheimer's research really matters.
People don't wake up one day and say, I have Alzheimer's disease. The day before I was normal. It develops over many years, and the disease process, we know, starts when people don't have any symptoms. This goes on for 10 to 20 years before they even come into the clinic when they start to have memory problems. So we need to intervene earlier than when people come into the clinic.
We've been at this for 5 or 6 years, and just what's happened in that period of time is so exciting. And just like anything, research, technology, whatever, it builds on itself. So the momentum is we're starting to feel it, like we're on the cusp of just a lot of things starting to happen.
The amount of caregiving that goes to take care of each person affected is overwhelming. And we really want to share that message that this is the costliest disease in the United States.
It's costing taxpayers over $40 million an hour. And not to mention all the unpaid caregiving that goes on. And there are about 6 million Americans currently diagnosed and living with Alzheimer's, but there are another 45 or 50 million of us walking around with the pathology beginning to develop in our brains because we're 20 years or within that range away from symptoms. And so to diagnose early, treat early, that is, as Michelle said, how we're going to beat this disease.
And that's one reason we created Battle for the Brain. It is a fun event. We are raising awareness. We are reducing the stigma. We are getting people talking about this disease. We are bringing everyone together in this room tonight to come together to make a difference. And we are seeing change happening every day.
This is among the most exciting periods I think that we've had in the Alzheimer's space. And it gets more exciting every year because the progress is bringing us closer and closer to meaningful advances in treatments and what we really want to get to in terms of preventing disease altogether.
We need to have a better test for that, and it really needs to be a blood test. We're really working hard on developing good biomarker blood tests for Alzheimer's disease.
And as we keep saying, the hope is in the research, and we are so lucky to have what we think is the best beneficiary ever. It's Emory's Goizueta Alzheimer's Disease Research Center, and all our proceeds go to unrestricted research relating to early diagnostics.
I have so much hope. We know that the advances are right around the corner, and we know that we're going to win, and so we convey some of that hope to our patients and to their families.
And we just want you to know that your presence is important and it matters, your story is important and it matters, and your support is important and it matters.
We have a $1 million goal tonight, and we know we can get there with your help. I think everyone can look at the person next to them and the person across the room and see the hope and know that you can make a difference.
Philanthropy associated with what you're doing, it really is the catalyst. It's the fuel, it's the jet fuel that really helps us make these real advances in the field, and that's what your help really allows us to do.
To all of you who've come to Battle for the Brain, it really is a battle, and we appreciate you being here. The more education you have, the more information you have, the more we all can join together to make Alzheimer's a thing of the past.
What you are doing is so incredibly important, and your donations make a real difference in advancing the science. So thank you so very much for your continued support, and thank you always to Susan and Michelle.
And while we're Daughters Against Alzheimer's, we are not just daughters. We are daughters and sons and mothers and brothers and fathers and friends, but we always say most of all we're fighters, and we appreciate you being in this fight with us.
And we're fighting for all of you.